to have a serious conversation about the so-called revolutionary innovation that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is planning to unleash right here on African soil. They are calling it a world first contraceptive, which is a hormonal device effective for up to 8 years, alongside a patch that can deliver hormones into the body for months at a time. Now, they want to launch it first in Kenya before rolling it out across the continent, and they call it empowerment, but I call it population control. And also, as an African, I cannot agree with this. The Gates Foundation is actually investing 2.5 billion US dollars into this initiative. They say the goal is to expand women's health services to give African women more choices and more control over their bodies. Now, this IUD is meant to last up to 8 years, while the patch can be applied discreetly, even in households where men may object to contraception. Now, the idea is that women, especially in low-income families, will now have access to cheap and long-term options. Now, on the surface, it sounds like progress, it sounds like compassion, but family, I want you to look deeper, because what is painted as empowerment for African women may in fact be yet another chapter in the long history of Africa being used as laboratory for Western experiment. Here's my question. Why Africa? Why are these revolutionary contraceptives not being tested in first in Europe, right? In the United States or Australia? Why are they not being rolled out to the very Western countries where unplanned pregnancies also exist? Instead, Africa, always Africa, becomes the testing ground, always the so-called pilot project, always the place where billionaires can play God with our bodies, our children, our future. But let's not be naive. We know the agenda. These people, from Bill Gates to Elon Musk to Western policymakers, openly debate population growth.
Contraceptive that lasts 8 years in Kenya, one of his favorite testing grounds. This guy's just obsessed with reducing the global population.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
His foundation just committed $2.5 billion in what they like to call women's health. Who the are you kidding? His investments in vaccines and pharmaceuticals did nothing but hurt women and children. Look at the birth rates and how much harder it got for women to get pregnant. In what world will anyone believe that he's doing these projects from the kindness of his heart, from his foundation? The agenda is to make us weak and sick and infertile as part of a long-term plan for population control. The cat's out of the bag. Don't get fooled by the pink sweater and the glasses. He's a little demon rat.
In their countries, they are panicking because their populations are declining and they are worried about not having enough children. But in Africa, they are worried that we have too many children. So what do? They bring us contraceptives, they bring us mosquito modifications, and they bring us fertility trials. They're not investing billions to grow Africa. They're investing billions to shrink Africa. And I cannot sit quietly and watch this because we carry historical memory. We know how colonizers control our land, how labor, and yes, even our wombs. Under apartheid, the government pushed birth control campaigns aimed specifically at limiting the Black population while encouraging white families to have more children. And now here we are in 2025 and the same script is being replayed. Only this time it's wrapped in the language of empowerment and women's health. Right? But let me say this clearly. There is no empowerment when the agenda is set in Seattle and Washington instead of Nairobi or Johannesburg. There is no empowerment when African women are the test subjects while Western women are the beneficiaries of safer, fully tested products later. I mean, let's not forget that Africa's greatest resource is not only our minerals, not only our land, but our people. Our young population, by 2050, Africa will be home to 1/4 of the world's people. That is power. That is leverage. That is the one advantage Africa has on the global chessboard. So why do you think the West is suddenly so generous with billions of dollars for contraception? Because they know what we sometimes forget, that numbers are power. Growing population needs growing labor force and a growing market and a growing political voice. If they can suppress that growth, not through bombs and wars, but through pills and patches, then Africa remains dependent and it remains weak and it remains exploitable. So this is not just politics. This is spiritual warfare, because what does it mean when outsiders are deciding how African children will be born? What does it mean when the very act of reproduction, the most sacred gift from God, is mediated by billionaires in boardrooms thousands of miles away? It means we are surrendering our future to people who have never and will never put Africa's interests first. Now, let me be clear, family. With that being said, right, I'm not against contraception. I'm not against African women having options. What I'm against is Western billionaires dictating the terms, the timing, and the technology of these options. If Africa needs solution for women's health, then let African scientists develop them. Let African governments fund them, right? Let African women lead them. We must stop looking to Gates, to France, to UK, to America for answers, because the answers always comes with strings attached. And we must remember this, because true empowerment is not someone giving you a patch or a device. True empowerment is building healthcare systems that serves us, economies that sustain us, and policies that reflect our values and not theirs. So as Africans, we must say no. We must reject this narrative that Africa is too poor, too backward, too ignorant to control its own fertility. We must resist being guinea pigs for experiments that we did not design. If Gates Foundation truly cares about African women, then let them fund hospitals, let them fund clean water projects, let them fund schools for girls. Because when women are educated, empowered, and supported, they will make their own choices about family naturally without billionaires pressing patches on their skin, right? The future of Africa must be decided by Africans and not outsiders with billion-dollar budgets and colonial mindsets. Now, that being said, I am Naledi Mfoloe, and this is the ADNC. Let's continue the conversation in the comment section. I really want to hear your thoughts on this. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Till we meet again, it is bye-bye.